They say there's a radio station that doesn't appear on any map, doesn't have a license, and broadcasts from a frequency that shouldn't exist. But late at night, when the highways are empty and the world feels thin, you might just hear it come through your speakers. The story goes that it started about 15 years ago, when drivers began reporting a strange station appearing on their radios around mile marker 53. It only came through after midnight, and only when you were traveling alone. The signal was weak at first, buried beneath layers of static, but if you turned the dial just right, voices would emerge from the white noise. At first, people thought it was a prank, some college kids with too much time and a homemade transmitter, but the broadcasts were strange, too strange. The voices would give directions to places that didn't exist. Turn left at the old barn that was torn down 20 years ago. Take the third exit past the bridge that never was. And here's where it gets unsettling. Some drivers, curious or perhaps just tired enough to find it amusing, would follow the directions. They'd take turns that made no sense, follow roads they'd never noticed before, and they'd get lost. Hopelessly, completely lost. Roads they'd driven their entire lives suddenly felt unfamiliar. Landmarks disappeared. GPS stopped working, spinning in confused circles. The story tells of one traveler who followed the broadcast for 3 hours, driving in what should have been a straight line home. When the sun finally rose, they found themselves 2 states away with no memory of how they'd gotten there. Their fuel gauge read exactly where it had when they started. Legend has it that if you try to trace the signal, the equipment goes haywire. Radio engineers have attempted to triangulate the source, but their instruments point to empty fields, or sometimes to the sky itself. Some say it's an echo from an old station that closed decades ago, somehow caught in the atmosphere and playing on an endless loop. Others whisper that it's a test, and those who follow the directions all the way through end up somewhere they can never quite leave, even if they make it back home. The frequency appears and disappears without pattern. You can't find it if you're looking, but if you're driving alone after midnight and your radio suddenly fills with static before voices emerge with directions to nowhere, you'll have a choice to make. Will you change the station, or will you listen? Because they say the broadcast is still out there, waiting for the next curious traveler to tune in and follow its call into the spaces between the roads we know. Subscribe to Wander Spooky Tales for more haunting tales.